Welcome to EDH Rec, a mishap of casual card-flinging commander gameplay. Our goal is to push our decks and have the most fun possible playing MTG. I would also like to thank our sponsors, HQ Gaming. Check out their shop below and definitely take advantage of their 15% off all stock sale. For this game, HQ posed the challenge of killing an opponent with their own permanent, which definitely caused some chaos. Lastly, I want to ask you to like and subscribe, as it would mean a great deal to us at EDH Rec. Without further ado, our players. First is Herman, piloting Marchesa the Black Rose. This deck aims to get dethroned triggers and sack creatures to replay their ETB effect. In Herman's opener, he has Feast of the Fallen, Gonti, Lord of Luxury, Grave Betrayal, Opal Palace, Shivan Reef, and Vivid Marsh. Next, we have Scales with his Yisan the Wanderer Bard deck, which tries to activate Yisan's ability multiple times in a turn to tutor out Craterhoof Behemoth for the OTK. His opening hand consists of Copperhorn Scout, Craterhoof Behemoth, Gaia's Blessing, Jiraga Tree Speaker, Priest of Titania, and 2 forests. In third, we have Chibi piloting Scales' Lord Windgrace deck, which looks to combo off of lands, changing zones, and gaining value. He has an opening hand of Avenger of Zendikar, Kalni Heart Expedition, Nissa Vital Force, Kazandu Refuge, Snow-Covered Mountain, and Snow-Covered Swamp. Lastly is Lliam with Balan Wandering Knight, an Equipment Voltron-style deck, aiming to kill opponents with commander damage. He has a Darksteel Plate, Grand Abolisher, Indomitable Archangel, Relic Seeker, Inventor's Fair, Plains, and Scavenger Grounds in hand. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the games. Herman gets to start the game off, drawing and playing Vivid Marsh tapped, then passing. Scales draws and plays a forest for turn, then tapping it for Copperhorn Scout, and also passes. On Chibi's turn, he draws and plays a Kazandu Refuge tapped, and gains 1 life. Lliam draws for turn and plays a Plains, quickly passing. At Herman's upkeep, he untaps and draws, then plays a Shivan Reef and passes to Scales, who untaps and draws, playing his second forest, then tapping out for Priest of Titania. He moves to attack Herman for 1, also passing. Chibi relinquishes his dinner while untapping and playing a Snow-Covered Swamp, which he follows up with a Kalni Heart Expedition. Lliam draws for turn and plays an Inventor's Fair, which is immediately tapped for Relic Seeker. He then passes. Herman draws for turn and plays an island, and then casting Simic Manipulator, he loses a life from Shivan Reef. Scales kicks his turn off by playing a forest, and then casting Yisan the Wanderer Bard. Then moving to combat, he hits Chibi for 2, and untaps Priest of Titania with Copperhorn Scout's ability, passing. Chibi untaps, draws and plays a signed Alexi Bricolot forest, giving Kalni Heart a counter. He then asks Scales to be his friend and plays Wishclaw Talisman, activating it with the promise of getting it back ASAP, whilst giving it to him. Lliam untaps and draws, then plays a Plains. He then taps for 2 and plays Dowsing Dagger, giving the plants to Herman. He then swings 2 at Chibi, triggering Relic Seeker, making it renowned, and getting Swiftfoot Boots. The plants give 2 evolved triggers to Simic Manipulator. Herman untaps, draws, and plays a Mountain. He then taps to play Marchesa the Black Rose, getting an evolved trigger for his Manipulator, and passing. Scales untaps and draws, then plays Jiraga Tree Speaker, whilst Chibi's Whispers, activate it. He then taps Priest of Titania for 3 green, and activates Wishclaw Talisman. With the remaining mana, he plays a Heartstone. Moving to combat, he attacks Chibi for 3, and untaps Priest of Titania and Yisan. He activates Yisan, floating 1 green, for an Elvish Mystic. He then uses the last mana to level up Jiraga Tree Speaker, passing to Cubbies, who untaps and draws, then plays a swamp, giving Culny Heart its second counter. He follows up by searching with Wishclaw Talisman, then passes. Lliam untaps and draws, then plays Buried Ruin. He then equips Dowsing Dagger to Relic Seeker, and unsurprisingly hits Cubbies for 4, and flips Dowsing Dagger to Last Veil. He then plays Swiftfoot Boots, deliberating a bit before playing Darksteel Plate and passing. But at the end of his turn, Herman activates Simic Manipulator, removing 2 counters to steal Yisan. Herman then untaps and draws on his turn, and immediately moves to combat, hitting Scales for 3, triggering Marchesa's Dethrone ability. He then plays Profaner of the Dead, sacking Marchesa and bouncing everyone else's creatures. He then bounces an island to play Izzet Boilerworks, tapped, ending his turn and returning Marchesa. Scales untaps and draws with a quote, "nice clean board." In an attempt to dump his hand, he plays Elvish Mystic, Jiraga Tree Speaker, and Copperhorn Scouts, then passes. Cubbies untaps, draws, and plays another signed mountain, and with the last landfall trigger, sacks Culny Heart, and then plays Underrealm Lich, passing and getting a snow-covered mountain and a forest. Lliam untaps and draws, and plays Scavenger Grounds for turn, and then, after taking a good look at Simic Manipulator, plays Balan, Wandering Knight. He then activates Balan's ability to equip everything to it. He then replays Relic Seeker, and after that attacks Herman with Balan, but gets chumped by a plant token. Then Lliam passes. Herman draws and plays Opal Palace for turn. He then taps for Feast of the Fallen, and then attacks Lliam with Marchesa and Profaner to trigger Dethrone, putting Lliam at 32. In his second main, he plays a Demon's Herald and passes. Scales untaps and draws, while Herman puts a counter on Simic Manipulator from Feast of the Fallen. Scales plays a Forest, and then replays Priest of Titania, and ends by leveling up Jiraga. Cubbies untaps, looks at the top 3, and dumps 2 cards. He then plays Rampaging Baloths, and follows it up by playing a Snow-Covered Mountain to trigger Baloth's landfall, creating a 4/4 beast token, and passing. Lliam goes through upkeep, and then plays a Plains, follows it up with a Loxodon Warhammer. Next, he plays a Strata Scythe, imprinting a Plains. He then activates Balan's ability, equipping the hammer and the scythe, making it a 9/6 with double strike, which he promptly sends Herman's way, who double blocks with a plant and Yisan, taking 13, passing. Lliam was supposed to gain 18 life, but put his life total up to 43. At Liam's end step, Herman removes 2 counters from Simic Manipulator to steal Relic Seeker. He then untaps and moves to combat, swinging Marchesa, Profaner, and Relic Seeker at Lliam for 13. He then plays Demir Aqueduct, bouncing Shivan Reef. He chooses Skullclamp off of the Relic Seeker and plays and equips it to Profaner. At Scales' upkeep, Herman puts a +1 counter on Manipulator. Scales meanwhile untaps and draws. He then plays a Seeker of Skybreak. He then taps Priest of Titania to cast Yisan, and then moves to combat, attacking Lliam with Copperhorn Scout for 1 and untapping his creatures. Herman puts a counter on Demon's Herald as Cubbies untaps and looks at the top 3 cards, bidding 2. He taps 5, plays Nissa, Vital Force, and downticks her to 2, returning Haunted Vengraph to hand, and playing it, getting a beast. In Cubbies' second main phase, Herman activates Demon Herald, sacking Marchesa, Herald, and Profaner for Prince of Thralls, and drawing 2 from Skullclamp. At Cubbies' end step, all 3 creatures return because of Marchesa, but as Profaner comes back, Herman exploits Prince of Thralls to bounce everyone else's creatures, literally playing in everyone else's turn. Finally, at Lliam's upkeep, Herman puts a counter on Manipulator. Lliam plays a Plains. He then plays Grand Abolisher, but in response, Scales Nature's Claims the Swiftfoot Boots, gaining Lliam 4 life. Lliam then plays Balan and finally remembers Inventor's Fair life gain trigger. He then activates Balan's ability, re-equipping everything. Herman untaps and draws. He then plays a Swamp for turn, and tapping it for a Talisman of Creativity, which he then taps for Grim Horror Specs. Moving to combat, he swings Marchesa and Profaner at Scales, and Relic Seeker at Nissa, with no blockers declared, killing Nissa. Scales untaps and empties his hand. Again, playing Jiraga Treespeaker, Elvish Mystic, Copperhorn Scout, and then he ends his turn and discards 2. Chibi sacks Haunted Fengraf in response, returning Wayward Swordtooth to hand. He then untaps and draws, then plays Rampaging Baloth again, then plays a Snow-Covered Mountain, getting a Beast token. At Chibi's end step, Herman reactivates Demon's Herald, sacking the same 3 but failing to find. He does, however, draw 3 cards from Horror Specs, and all his creatures come back with Marchesa. He then steals a Beast token with Manipulator. Lliam untaps and draws for turn and gains a life from Inventor's Fair, which he then sacks, searching up a Whispersilk Cloak, playing it, and using Balan's ability to equip it. He then swings and kills Herman, however gains only 10 life. He passes, and Herman gives the Beast token back to Chibi's. Scales untaps and draws, then plays Sporefrog, looking to stop Lliam. He then taps and plays his commander, again. He then levels up Treespeaker. Moving to combat, he attacks Chibi's with Copperhorn Scout, untapping and using his creature mana to activate Yisan, which has Summoning Sickness. Scales puts Aquarian Ranger into play. Chibi's untaps, draws, and plays a command tower for another beast. He then replays Underrealm Lich and passes. Lliam untaps, draws, and plays Pure Steel Paladin. He follows up by playing God's End, drawing. He follows that up with Prowler's Helm, drawing again. Emptying his hand, he plays Inquisitor's Flail, drawing. He then plays a Plains. Using Pure Steel's ability, he equips the cloak to it, and then equips everything to Balan. He attacks Scales, but Scales activates Sporefrog to negate the damage, when Lliam reminds Scales of the Grand Abolisher, thus eliminating him from the game. Chibi's untaps and looks at the top 3, bidding 2. He then plays Scheming Symmetry. Both Lliam and Chibi's search a card to the top of their libraries. Chibi's then putrefies Whispersilk Cloak, and looking for the win, plays Claim the Firstborn on Balan, but realizes Balan has 4 CMC. With all the schemes spent, he concedes. Congrats to Lliam on his win. He just remained a force at the table, regardless of everyone's interference. It's a shame Chibi's strategy of laying low until the last minute didn't work, and Herman's constant bounces hosing Scales' gameplay. Top player goes to Lliam for always posing a threat regardless of anything and anyone else. Top card is definitely Marchesa, as her ability just allowed Herman to gain crazy amounts of value. Thanks again to HQ Gaming for the challenge, which Herman later won. Just a reminder of their 15% sale on all stock, link down below. Lastly, it would mean a great deal to us at EDH Rec if you would like, subscribe, and share. What did you think of the game? Leave a comment below. Also, give our other stuff a watch.